The honourable member for Halifax.
Monsieur le Président, la population a le droit de savoir ce que le Premier ministre connaissait du scandale de défense au Sénat. Or, on voit plutôt le Premier ministre prolonger son séjour en Europe. Au lieu de répondre aux questions des Canadiens qui en ont assez de voir leurs taxes gaspillées, est-ce que le Premier ministre est devenu le défenseur du statu quo au Sénat?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as you know, it was the Senate that invited the Auditor General in, and he's tabled his report. And of course, we expect the Senate to listen to those recommendations and implement them, Mr. Speaker. But as we all know, the status quo in the Senate is obviously not acceptable. That's why we fought to bring openness and transparency into the Senate, Mr. Speaker. The Supreme Court, in its wisdom, has suggested that we need unanimous support of the provinces to move forward with any reform, Mr. Speaker, and we anxiously await that.
The honourable member for Halifax.
Every time we learn more about Conservative corruption in the Senate, well, this Prime Minister suddenly finds urgent business to do on another continent.
Called hiding.
First
Called hiding.
He had urgent business in Peru. But when the RCMP released the documents about the cover-up, suddenly he had to rush off to Europe.
Order. Order. The government will have an opportunity to answer the question when the member for Halifax is finished asking it, but not before then. The honourable member for Halifax.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When the RCMP released documents about the cover-up, suddenly the Prime Minister had to rush off to Europe. Now we have a devastating report about corruption in the Senate, and the Prime Minister once again isn't answering questions. Why is it that whenever there's a scandal, the Prime Minister hops on a plane?
Hear, hear.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that question just highlights that it's not only the Liberals who are incapable of ever governing this country again and that their leader's in overhead, it's the entire NDP caucus, Mr. Speaker. It's called a G7, Mr. Speaker, where the world's most powerful nations come together to talk about the economy, come together to talk about security, Mr. Speaker. Our Prime Minister was there leading the G7 with respect to improving the economy, fighting ISIL terrorism, Mr. Speaker. We're proud of that, Mr. Speaker. We'll continue to do that job on behalf of Canadians.
The honourable member for Halifax.
Canadians can only marvel at how that member evades questions, but make no mistake, accountability is coming for those Conservatives.
Put them out of their misery.
Trying to distract us with make-believe. We're asking questions about real abuse of trust and public money being misspent, and the Prime Minister won't answer a single question. After promising change, why have the Conservatives now given up on doing anything to clean up the culture of corruption, waste, and entitlement in this Senate?
As I just said, obviously the status quo in the Senate is unacceptable. That's why the Auditor General came in, examined their expenses, Mr. Speaker. He submitted a report, and the Senate is taking action on that, Mr. Speaker. But as I said yesterday, Canadians don't differentiate. When parliamentarians abuse their money deliberately, they want some recourse. There are 68 members of that caucus, Mr. Speaker, who owe 3 times as much as the Auditor General identified in the Senate report. It is absolutely inappropriate. Starting with their leader who owes $400,000, they should repay the money they owe Canadians.